and today I'm going to show you how I made a fun card with the Light and Wonder stamp set bundle. This is from Stampin' Up's new mini catalog that ordering started for that on the 3rd of September, I guess it was. So we are here and live, and yeah, like I said, I'm just going to show you how I made a quick card here, and I'm hoping that looks like I'm live. So just wanted to trying to straighten out everything here on my screen. I know somebody mentioned to me, they're like, I can't ever tell that it's crooked when you start, but I don't know. I don't ever think it is. And then I look at it on my screen and I'm like, whoa, it's crazy crooked. So I'm always wiggling stuff around when I start. So, hey, Sally, thanks for hopping in today. I appreciate you being here. And Judy and Carol, thanks for joining. So it's actually, this is sort of a case of the card that I saw in the Stampin' Up catalog. I changed it around a little bit. Theirs was like a real tall, thin card. I turned mine into an A2 card so that I could show you that it would work with that as well. So, hey, Judy and Karen, it's a beautiful sunny day, and Tanya as well. It's a beautiful sunny day here in New Jersey. I just can't complain. It's like the air is a little drier, so not quite as humid, and I think the high is supposed to be like 75-ish, maybe a little lower today. So that's like my ideal weather, but we only get like 5 days a year of that. It's either cold or it's hot, and then I complain about them equally. So, hey, Marilyn and Lauren, thanks for joining today. So again, this is the card we're going to be making. It's pretty quick and easy to do. It's mostly just die cuts, obviously, and I just kind of have things layered together, and I'll show you the dies that I used as we're going through the process and how I cut the cardstock so that you kind of have an idea if you want to do this yourself. So, hey, Debbie and Shirley, thanks for joining. So this is the Light and Wonder stamp set. You will note that there are no images in it, other than obviously sentiments are images, I guess, but it's only sentiments in here. So just be aware of that when you get it, but it's got an awesome set of dies that go with it. There's a nice mix and match for your sentiments here. So you've got thank yous and may your day be filled with and wishing you a year of. And then there's love, light, wonder, and magic again. So it's kind of one of those mix and match ones that you can use. I used may your day be filled with and wonder for the card that I created today. But again, you can kind of mix and match and make it be whatever you want it to be. So, good. I'm glad you're getting some nice weather in Maryland too, because like I said, when I got up this morning and got my younger daughter out and on her way to school, it was a little chilly out there. But yeah, stepped out just like 20 minutes ago, and I'm like, oh, it's beautiful. So, all right. So these are the Light and Wonder dies, and you will note that there are no dies that are words in here. So it's a nice complementary set where you've got words for the stamps and then some pretty dies that you can create outdoor, mountainy, lake kind of scenes with it. And again, as I'm going through putting the card together, I will show you which dies I use to cut what, but these are obviously trees, and so are these. There's some clouds in here. This is a mountain set. Oh, there's another cloud. And then this actually is what I use to create the water. You can use it this way if you want the water to look like it's coming to a lake's edge, or I actually flipped it this way and made it so that the water basically it was kind of looked like it was trailing off in the distance. So that was how I used that one. And then there's this one, which is just like a kind of to cut a little, I don't know, landscapey look like grass or dirt or whatever you want it to be. So, all right. So again, great set of dies. Again, Light and Wonder is the name of it. It is bundled together. So yeah, it's really pretty. It's not at all, Debbie. It's basically just kind of have to start at the top and work your way down. That's how I find it to be easiest to use these sets. And then I always, like I said, I constantly am stealing ideas from in the Stampin' Up catalog. Actually, I'll pull the one out that I actually swiped because I can now show you officially the inside of the catalog. So this is basically, I even swiped the colors. So this is basically the card that I looked at on here, and I just kind of built it to look pretty similar to that. So anyway, that's all. All right. So let's put these away here. Set the dies aside and stamp set. On the inside of the card, I did actually use this pine tree image because, again, like I said, there are no images other than sentiments in that stamp set, and I wanted something that looked similar. I thought the pine tree looked similar in here, so that is how I did the inside of the card. Ornamental Christmas is the name of this one. This is an online exclusive item, so that is where that one came from. Couple things before I get going here. I totally forgot. I can't even believe I forgot to say this on Friday when I was live. I'm doing a double reward points ordering bonus through the end of the day today. And so, yeah, just you're going to earn for any order of $50 or greater placed through my online store. And that is orders that after you apply any Stampin' rewards and all that good stuff, so $50 after all the discounts are applied, you're going to get double reward points for me. So the way my rewards work is that you collect 8 points and you get a free $40 order of your choice. So when you have double points, basically, you only have to essentially collect 4 points, but it's 8 through the end of the day today, and you're going to get a free $40 order from me. Details are on my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com. Let me know if you have any questions about that. And then just as I was yakking earlier about the Ornamental Christmas being an online exclusive item, Stampin' Up! Has got a list of online exclusive products. It's also on the sidebar on my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com. You can find it there. But they've got a nice printable version. It's not quite a catalog, but at least everything is all in one place. You don't have to print it. You can just look at it online, but it really helps when you're out shopping and trying to figure out what coordinates with what. Is there a suite that matches it? All that good stuff. So for the September releases of the online exclusives, yay, Stampin' Up! Put this awesome little flyer together for us. It's a couple pages long, but definitely worth printing out if you want to take a close look at those. Again, on my sidebar, let me know if you have any questions. So. All right, I have got a card base. This is Azure Afternoon, which is a color that I love. I actually really do like it. Blue is kind of my favorite color, all shades of blue. But this is one of those colors that I just don't use very often. I don't know why. Just don't have any, a reason to use it, I guess. And I kind of forget about it because I like Blueberry Bushel a lot, and I don't know, I kind of forget we have this one. So this card actually is one that you can create on a standard card base. So if you want to use your 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4.25, you can do that. I prefer the top fold card bases. So mine is 4.25 by 11 and then scored at 5.5 here across the middle. So again, that's my preferred card base, but I know not everybody loves those. So this is the Lights of Aurora Designer Series paper that I cut this from, and it's 4.25 wide by 3 inches long. And I cut the 3 inches long intentionally so that I could get 2 card fronts from one of the 6x6 pieces, because that paper is a 6x6 Designer Series paper pack, and I wanted to make sure that I could get both of these cards made with just one piece of the Designer Series paper, because designer paper, it's all so pretty, and I hate to, don't want to waste any more of it than I have to. I don't know. I like designer papers, and I use them a ton. So, all right, using a little bit of liquid glue, and we're just going to take this, and I'm going to try not to stick my fingers in it. I usually try to put glue on the card base, but I was afraid that I would not get it on here quite right and then end up with a big gluey mess. So, all right, we're just going to take that, and we've got it adhered here where I think I want it. Lining it up on the edges. Again, that's kind of our sky background on here. The next thing that I cut, again, I'm just going to show you all the die cut pieces that I did here. So this is the mountains. And then I used this die and I actually put it on here like this. I think you could cut it either way. You could cut it this way if you wanted to, if you wanted to have like a little steeper peak on it. I wanted mine to be more of like a, I don't know, big fluffy peak. So I went with it this way. So again, this started out, it was probably, I don't know, 3 inches or so. And then I just took it, ran it through my die cutting machine and chopped off the top of it. And then, let me get this put back on here. Then golly, there we go. So I know this fits on here. Then I used this die, which is kind of a strange looking one, but it's designed to look like part of a mountain. And oh, you like that designer paper? Yes, it's pretty awesome. So this is kind of designed to layer over the top a mountain. This is Pool Party cardstock. And again, I don't know, this one probably started out at about 4 or so inches, but it doesn't need to be that long if you don't want it to be. And I just placed it over here and kind of cut out the center with this die. All right, so I'm going to take those 2 die cut pieces, if I can get my die back on the sheet here, and we're going to layer them together. When I layered mine, I basically just what I wanted to hide was I didn't want to have a gap like that in there, if that makes sense. So hopefully you can see it on here. So I didn't want a gap like that. So when I layered mine together, I just made sure that this piece was kind of stuck down and covering up the little area in here that was open. So that's how I layered mine together. Again, there's no precise way. So, all right, gonna go ahead and grab, I'm actually gonna use some, throw some Stampin' Seal around here. Use some Stampin' Seal to put that across here in hopes that I don't have any glue oozing out anywhere where I don't want it to be as I layer these together. So again, just sliding it down so that I make sure that I have got that little hole in there covered, and then lining up the edges. Again, these both started at 4¼ inches wide. And again, the white one was about 3-ish inches. And then the pool party layer was about 4 inches. So, all right. I'm going to take this and we are going to layer it here on the background. And again, I'm going to scoot it up sort of towards the top, just knowing that I'm going to be building the layers as we go down here. So I want to make sure that I've got plenty of room to fit all my pretty trees on here. So I'm just going to start up again pretty close to the top. And we're just going to adhere this together with a little, I think I'll use liquid glue. I don't love liquid glue, but when I'm gluing these bigger pieces on like this, I see that liquid glue does have a purpose, even though I hate using it. But I do, when I'm putting big pieces like this on, it's easier to have just a hair of wiggle room on it, so that if you get something put down and it's not exactly straight or not exactly the spot that you want it to be, you can kind of wiggle it around a little bit. Not a ton, because then you'll end up with glue seeping out everywhere, but you can kind of wiggle it and maneuver it around to make sure your edges are lined up, like mine was not right there. And now I've got it too far to the other side. There we go. All right, I think I got it down here. I think it's on here straight. Just going to give this a quick smoosh. So, all right. The next couple layers that I cut were, this one is Gorgeous Grape. And again, this one started out at about 3 inches. And then I cut it with this little tree line die. And I put it so that this little dip in the center was towards, it doesn't need to be, again, precisely in the center of your die cut, but you want it pretty close to in the center of your die cut, because that's where on my card the little stream looks like it's kind of flowing out through the center of the card. Again, that was just kind of how I lined mine up, so that is where I wanted it, is more in the center. If you prefer to have it over to one side, you could certainly slide it over to one side. Just be aware that as you layer over the top of it, you're going to want to slide all your dies over a little bit so that the little river part lines up correctly with this. All right, so again, this die cut, and roughly place that little dip here in the center. Put that away. And then we are going to take this and we're going to glue this on to the card front. And again, there's like no specific or exact way that it needs to be on here. You just want it up, again, just kind of scooching things up towards the top, because what you will find is that as you create these cards, if you start with things down too far, then you're going to end up with everything way down, and then all of a sudden you're going to be building your card and stuff's going to be falling off the bottom, and you don't want that to happen. So just go ahead and scoot it up towards the top to start with. And again, I'm using my least favorite adhesive, which is liquid glue, to stick this together. And again, it just gives me a little wiggle room. I'm putting a few dots of liquid glue here behind some of these trees. I'm going to try not to put too much on. And I'm okay if the trees kind of flap around a little bit in the breeze. I just sort of want a few spots to anchor them down, so that hopefully they don't get caught when I go to put them in the envelope. All right. And there I got a glob too close to the edge, and that was going to ooze out everywhere if I didn't fix it. All right, so we're going to grab this layer. Then we're going to place it right over the top of the mountains here. And again, we're kind of still building basically kind of above the halfway point on this card. You can scooch it down a little if you want to. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just looking at it and thinking, I think that looks all right. And the other thing you can do is if you get things slid too far up to the top, you can always make your bottom little layers a little bit longer, and then nobody will know that you were supposed to have scooted it down a little. All right. Next thing that I did, this is another piece of that Lights of Aurora Designer Series paper. Again, everything is starting out at 4¼ inches wide and about 3 inches tall. Again, so that I could get 2 of these out of each piece of that Designer Series paper. This is the die that I used, and again, I flipped it so that this was placed so that it was roughly centered on my card, or on the panel that I was cutting, because I knew I wanted it to layer here in the center of my trees. Again, roughly in the center like that. So just use this to die cut the water on my card. All right, and then we're going to go back and we're going to glue that down. And again, I cut everything down to 4 1/4 wide to start with, and then chopped it with the dies to make it as tall as I wanted it to be. And this could definitely be a little bit shorter if you wanted to conserve. You might be able to get 3 of these out of one piece of the designer series paper if you are careful with the way you lay out your card and make sure that you don't cut it too short so that there's like a bald spot, if that makes sense. So, all right, I'm just going to layer this right over the top of the gorgeous grape trees. And again, just roughly putting this up here. Again, it's, never going to be perfect, but roughly centered here inside the trees to make it look like the little stream is flowing off beyond where the trees are at. All right. Next layer that I cut, I used this big die. And the other thing, I probably have forgotten to say this all the way along. Obviously, this one is going to cut a straight edge. This one's going to cut a fairly straight edge. But like the mountains and the layers of trees that I'm putting on here, there's no bottom cut on it, if that makes sense. So we'll cut out the tree images, but anything that's hanging down below this is going to just be blank paper. So you can kind of, again, judge from how far up from the bottom of the paper you want it to be. This will just be uncut paper down here, so you can always trim it away. So my theory on it is always start higher up than you think you're going to need, and you can always cut it down smaller. But if you slide it down too far and you've cut it too short, sometimes there's no fixing it. So, all right, I use this to cut Blackberry Bliss cardstock. And again, just roughly centered the little dip here with the center of my cardstock panel. I don't know, like I said, this is probably centered, not necessarily this spot, but roughly centered on my cardstock panel. Again, this started out as about 4 1/4, and it was about probably 4 inches or so tall when I started it. All right, take that, get that die put over here, and we are going to take this and layer it right over the top. And again, I'm not all the way down to the bottom yet. Maybe I'll scooch that down just a hair more. So not all the way down to the bottom yet, because we're going to put one more layer over the top of this. So there are quite a few layers. I found a little hanging chad there that didn't pop out when I was die cutting. So let me grab my liquid glue. So this is a really layered up card, and that's, like I said, that's the most difficult part, is kind of trying to figure out the layering on it, what colors you want to use for what. And yeah, other than that, it's pretty quick to put it together once you get all your die cuts done. And again, just kind of trying to put a few little globs of glue here that hopefully will hold the top part of this down. And you don't need to really have it super-duper secured. It's okay if it's a little floppy on the top. It just adds more dimension, is my theory on it. All right, then we're going to add a little liquid glue down here at the bottom, so that hopefully I can stick it to the card front. Now this one, I'm afraid I am going to really stick my fingers in it. But all right, I'm going to take this down here near the bottom and just lining up the layers so you can see as much or as little of the lake as you want to see on your card. Got to scoot that edge over just a hair. Then we're going to smush it down here. So, hey, Phyllis, thanks for hopping in. And Sherry and Cindy, I've been busy yakking, and I don't know if I said hi to you or not, Daryl, but thanks for joining. And Debbie, so thanks everybody for being here. All right, so got that layered on. Again, just use the little liquid glue and holding it down, giving it a good smush. And then the final piece, I actually did another die cut. My original design, I will tell you honestly, if you could peel this apart, you would see I tried to stamp this sentiment down here at the bottom of my card, and I couldn't make it fit right because it just, the way I had the card laid out, it didn't leave enough space for the larger sentiment. So I went, I know, let's chop this off, make it even, and just get another piece of paper, layer it right over the top with a sentiment on it, die cut it, and we'll have the same effect, only the sentiment will actually fit. So that was how I worked around it from the bottom, basically. This is basic beige. That is definitely not basic beige. This is Blackberry Bliss, too many B's. Again, starting out at 4 1/4, and I don't know, this could definitely be much smaller than it is. It's just the other part. I'd cut this off when I made my original card, and this is just the leftover piece of it. All right, so again, I'm going to start with a flat edge down here, because that is where I'm going to be aiming for the bottom of my sentiment to line up down here centered on this piece of cardstock. And I've got Versamark ink. And again, I use the Wonder sentiment for the large one. We're just going to ink this up well. And stamp it here roughly centered on and down towards the bottom of my little cardstock panel here. And then I've got the other sentiment ready to go here as well. It says, "May your day be filled with." And I'm hoping I'm going to get this stamped on here straight and roughly centered. There we go. Hopefully it'll look okay. We're going to use some white embossing powder from the Basics Wow embossing powders. Oh, let me grab my spoon here. Sprinkling it with the white embossing powder. And I did use the embossing buddy. That was what I rubbed over the top of the cardstock before I started to try to minimize the little flecks that sometimes stick in places where I don't want them to be. But got my white embossing powder on there. There's a little fleck here, little one there. Try to get those off before I start embossing, although I think I just smooshed it down, so that's all right. All right, heat tool. We're going to go ahead and turn that on. So there's a Stampin' Up! Heat tool. It has 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying. So if you're doing something like watercoloring and want to speed up the drying a little bit, you can use the level 1 setting. Level 2 setting is for heat embossing, so it does get a little bit hotter. Both of them are really hot, but level 2 setting does get a little bit hotter, but it does take just a second to heat up. So I'm just pointing it away from my project right now, letting it heat up, and then we're going to turn it towards the project here in just a second. And then as you're embossing, you just want to keep an eye on it, and as it starts to turn that bright white and smooth kind of shiny look, you want to keep the heat tool moving so that you don't accidentally burn your embossing powder, because it turns a yucky brown and gets really dull if you do that. And I've done it plenty of times, but I try not to do it on camera. Usually I mess it up, hopefully only once, and usually in my making of it when I'm not paying attention because I'm busy yakking or whatever. So, all right. The sentiment is from the Light and Wonder stamp set bundle. That is the one that I'm showcasing here today. So let me grab my die cut. So this is the die that I used to cut out my sentiment, and it's got a nice little kind of bump up here in the middle of it. And I just, again, roughly put the little bump up around the rounded part of the sentiment on here. And I'm just going to go chop this, run it right through my die cutting machine. So I'll be right back. There we go. And there's my little die cut sentiment. Let's put this back on here before I lose track of these. Get rid of that. Bring my card back over here. Probably should put this plate away before I knock that on the floor, and that'll be a loud bang clang for sure if I throw one of those on the floor. And I've lost track of my glue already, but I'm going to use a little liquid glue to adhere this down towards the bottom of the card. And again, just gonna try not to put too much glue on or steer it off the page like I almost did right there. Yeah, like I said, liquid glue and I, we're just not friends. All right, so then I'm gonna take this and line it up with the very bottom of the card and center it. There we go. And then we're gonna hold it for just a second and give it a good solid smoosh to make sure that everything is stuck down here. Because it is being placed over the top of a couple layers, and the layers have kind of got little bumps and divots and whatever in them from all the die cutting. So I just want to give it a second to make sure that it's stuck down well, which I think it is now. So that is it for creating the card front. So like I said, once you get your die cuts made, again, my suggestion is always to make them longer than what you need. Layer them on here, and don't start gluing until you have everything cut out, layered together, and then glue it down. Again, you can always trim it off on the bottom of the card in order to make it be short enough to fit. But if you've cut it too short, I'm telling you, there's nothing more frustrating than having to start all over, because I've done it multiple times on many different cards, having to start all over. So just always cut them longer than what you think you're going to need. You can always trim them shorter. So, all right, these are also part of the suite. They are frosted iridescent dots, and the colors are Azure Afternoon, Balmy Blue. Oh, no, that's the designer paper. Hold on. Berry Burst Gorgeous Grape, Balmy Blue, and Clear. On my original card, I'd put some of the Gorgeous Grape ones on. So I don't know, I was trying to decide if I should use a different color. I don't know. You guys can let me know. This is the Berry Burst to add a little bit of a pink to it. This is the one that I used originally. Then we've got the clear ones. And then we've got the Balmy Blue. So I don't know if you have a preference on here. I was going to try the Balmy Blue because, again, that's just my favorite color. But I'm okay with whatever. So I'll just wait for a second. And whoever puts the first comment down, that's the color we'll go with. Because they all kind of coordinate. So technically, I didn't use any of the Berry Burst on here. But, yeah. All right, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm way ahead, but I'm not seeing any responses. Or maybe you guys are just bored and tired of me yakking. So I'm going to go with the blue. How does that sound? All right, we'll put a Balmy Blue. All right, Carol's the first one to respond. She says Balmy Blue, so we're clearly on Team Blue over here. All right, just going to put 2 of those on here. One of them here, one of them here. And again, on that darker cardstock, you can hardly tell the difference between the two, but there's a slight difference. I can tell it. Again, I don't know how easy it is to show or how easy it is for you to see it. I can see a slight difference in the color looking at it in my hand, but they're pretty close to the same on that dark cardstock. So, all right. We're all in agreement on Balmy Blue then. All right. Okay. So the inside of the card is super simple. I've got Azure Afternoon, and I used one of the one of the tree stamps from the Ornamental Christmas stamp set. And just inking it up here in that Azure Afternoon ink. And we're going to stamp it once, ink it a second time, stamping it a little bit lower on basic white cardstock. And then we'll do another one over here on the right-hand side. And this is going to be all we're going to put on the inside of the card. This is one of those cards that I was trying to decide, did I want to make it be a birthday card or just a more general card? So I'm leaving the inside of it blank. And if I make it into a birthday card, I'll just grab a birthday sentiment and stick it on the inside of it. If I leave it and do something else with it, then I won't be sad that I've got a birthday sentiment inside that I don't want. So that was my thought on it and why I left it without a sentiment on the inside and left it as a little bit more of a general card. But there we go. Going to go ahead and close it up and give it a quick crease with the bone folder. And that's it for the card. So it's actually really easy. And like I said, if you're intimidated by these kind of die sets, give it a try. You're going to love this one. They're really easy to layer together. And again, just always look at the samples in the catalog, because usually Stampin' Up! Shows us how to use most of these, and then you can pick whatever colors you want it to be and lay it out however you want it to look. So there you go. All right. So again, my tip is just make sure you got plenty of extra cardstock underneath all the die cuts that you're making, and your card's going to turn out perfectly. So have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. I will plan to be live around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. And then again around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Tuesday. So we will plan to see you guys all then. All the details for this are going to be posted on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. I'll link directly to the blog post once it goes live around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So you'll be able to come back over and find the link to the printable PDF tutorial, all the pictures, all the good things out of my blog. So again, have a great rest of your day, and we will chat with you all soon.